Hello there. Bit of an unexpected one this actually, as I wasn't actually planning on doing this job at all, but for whatever reason I decided to clean the boot area and actually remove the spare wheel and just have a bit of a look around in there. And I noticed that there was some very unenthusiastic surface rust. In other words, it hadn't really done any damage, hadn't really sort of pitted the metal or anything like that. So I decided that it would be a nice idea to give it a bit of a clean up. So obviously the first thing I did was just to give the whole area a bit of a general sort of sand over, just to key the surface. I'm not doing anything particularly special, it's quite rough grit sandpaper, I'm not doing any sort of smoothing off or anything like that. There's a big rubber bung here as well, probably there from the factory, possibly even there for trailer electrics. You do have a tow bar fitted, which I removed and wanted to give that area a bit of a clean up as well. I've had in the past some cars, mainly Mercedes actually, funnily enough, where I've had a rubber bung in the inner arch area. Moisture has got in behind said rubber bung and has actually corroded the entire area, which isn't brilliant. So I decided to actually just give this whole area a bit of a clean up and generally sort of sand it down, keying it off, ready for the application of primer, then top coat, and then primer, paint, and then lacquer or top coat. So I gave the area a bit of a vacuum up, and the next thing I did was to paint on some Rust. Other rust inhibitors or converters are available. Rust actually works rather well in that it actually turns a black colour when it's actually ready to be painted on. Now, as you can see here, I've actually sped up this clip, and you can actually see some areas still look a tiny bit rusty. So what I would actually do is actually go ahead and apply another coat of the Rust just to make sure that you do actually have a good surface to actually paint on. So we're now coming up to actually have a look at what we've done, and the next stage is to actually apply the primer, which I've actually done here. So we've actually got a layer of primer on, and I'm just going over again with a second coat. Now, what I did to actually warm up the cans, I actually find the paint comes out a lot better if the cans are warm, is you can either put them into a glass or a suitable mug of hot water, which will warm up the paint inside, or because it is a boiling hot day, I actually left them on the windscreen of the car just to warm up in direct sunlight. Don't leave them there for hours on end, otherwise, you know, it is pressurized and it will explode, probably take the windscreen with it and cause an awful mess. But in this particular instance, they were only there for about 5 minutes tops, and that was enough time just to get them warmed through, and then obviously a shake up for a good couple of minutes to get the agitator ball going, and obviously all the paint agitated inside was enough to give me quite a nice result direct from the can. There is sort of different schools of thought on how to paint. I've read up numerous places on how to do it, so I'm not an expert by any means, but I tend to do a on-off method, on spray, off spray, and I stay around sort of 6 inches away from the paint surface, you can see here, and I tend to try and go up and down and then diagonally, so yeah, so sort of horizontally and then up and down as I'm doing here. Just try and get full coverage on all of these sort of relevant areas, nooks and crannies, especially on this sort of surface which isn't perfectly flat. Pay in particular attention to the little hole there that I removed the rubber bung from, making sure that I sort of get the paint onto the edges of the actual metalwork. Now, one thing that you might want to do as well is also to wear some kind of mask, because you do get quite a lot of sort of spray coming up there. You can actually see in the picture here the actual little metallic particles coming from this generic metallic silver that I've used. Because it's an out of the way area, I haven't used the starburst silver that the car came in. I've just used a generic metallic silver from Halfords, which, you know, will serve the purpose and do exactly what I need it to do. And what I did then was I basically waited for another sort of 15-20 minutes or so for this to dry off, because it is unbelievably hot outside on the day that I did this. It didn't actually take all that long to dry. So within sort of no time at all, it was actually ready to have the lacquer coat applied. Again, similar method with this lacquer coat, making sure I sort of do the on-off of the nozzle 6 inches away from the surface I'm spraying on, and in a sort of horizontal and then up and down method, sort of diagonally if possible. As you can see I'm doing there. It's all jolly exciting, but it did, sort of following this method, did actually sort of provide me with a finish that was mostly acceptable. It's not show standards, I wouldn't want to show anybody, you know, it's not sort of concourse standard, I wouldn't want to really sort of boast about it and show anybody, but it was acceptable for what I wanted it for. Obviously once this has been applied, I would recommend leaving it overnight for the lacquer to fully harden, obviously before sort of putting your spare wheel back in there or anything else, just to make sure that it's had a chance to sort of fully flash off and dry. And that was really it actually. So once that was carried out, it was just sort of a general quick inspection of the area, make sure that I hadn't missed any bits, and once that was done I was able to then proceed on to the next job, which I will be detailing in the next video. So if you found this useful, don't forget to hit that like button, and also don't forget to consider subscribing for more upcoming fascinating hobbies. I'd like to say thank you very much for watching.